Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Digitally Uploaded Podcast, the companion podcast to digitallydownloaded.net. I am Matt, and I am talking very slow today because it is 7 a.m. and I am still half asleep. So, rather than me continue to talk, hello, Alan, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, I'm going to bring in the energy because it's the other side of the world and it's all good. I'm doing great. It's fine. Everything's great. And how are you, Matt? Apart from sleepy.
I'm good. I have my coffee, so I'll be awake soon enough, and then I'll be ranting along like normal. But yeah, all good. Yourself?
Yeah. The thing is that I've not been in this podcast for now, like, what, 3 weeks, months? Can't even tell time anymore. And I've lost the ability to speak in a coherent manner. So this is going to go well. It's going to be fantastic.
So it's going to be a usual podcast, really.
Oh no!
This is usually how these things go. Usually, somebody ends up,
having a breakdown.
Yeah. Anyway, well, better introduce the other people on the podcast because that's a bit rude otherwise. Hello, Harvard. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello. It's great to be part of the Madden Nfl show.
The Melon Show.
The Melon Show.
And finally, we have Trent. Trent's here because it's cold enough in here in Australia to almost snow, and Trent's looking forward to talking about snowball fights. Hello, Trent.
Snow? Yes. Well, if I look at the snow patterns for nearby me, it's probably going to snow in Walker. It's probably going to snow in Nundle, just not here.
You have to travel for your snowball fight, huh?
Yeah, it's about like a hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on where the snow is. But yes, it is possible.
Do you reckon you could organise a turn-based snowball fight in real life? That's a thing that I've been wondering about.
With rocks inside the snow?
Yeah. Final Fantasy Tactics style snowball fight.
This running
life.
Joke needs to stop. It's been literally like over a year that we've been doing this one joke about the open snowball fight in Final Fantasy Tactics, and it's like it's reaching that point.
Well, it's out of the system now, so now we can't talk about it for the rest of the podcast. It's officially banned. So
that says that, but it's also been raised now. So now there's, if something, were to come up, there's a,
there's fresh in everyone's minds.
Past logical jump back to the snowball fight. So it's gonna be all good.
Okay. Anyway, we're going to quickly go around and talk about what we'll be playing this month before we jump to our music. Alan, what have you been playing? You've been playing Pokemans, haven't you?
I have been playing Pokemon Unite and beating up children.
Good
so
stuff.
Metaphorically.
I guess
I haven't been following the headlines in England, but there may well be somebody going around.
That game is really good. I like it a lot. It made me get back into Smite very briefly before realizing that I don't like playing games that make me horribly upset. So now I'm just playing Pokemon Unite again. That game is really good.
I'm like the least fan of MOBAs ever.
Yeah, I did not expect you to play that game.
And I picked it up and I was like, I was rolling my eyes. The only reason I played it was I figured I'd be able to write a hit piece on it on digitally downloaded. But then I started to play it and I'm like, oh dear, this is good. And yeah, I've played it quite a bit. I'm shocked. I'm upset with myself.
Because like the issue that I face is that I only know Gen 1 and Gen 3. The rest of it may as well not exist. So when I encounter a lord like Crabble, I instantly enjoy Crabble. So it's like he's a large boy and he snips. And frankly, that's enough for me to be on board because he's a dickhead and I like that. I respect him.
They do have to add some Pokemon. They need to get Farfetch'd. They need to get Leekbird in.
Leekman.
Yeah.
His ultimate should be like eating a leek or something and beating the shit out of someone with it. I don't know.
Like his super could be like he summons Hatsune Miku to the playfield.
And that's where we're moving on. So,
Harvard, what have you been playing?
Cool. I don't know. Harvard.
I've been having a pretty chill month. I haven't really been playing too much. When I find time, I've still been working through Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning. I don't know how many Re's there are anymore. And that's been fun. It's been bonking things with hammers and stealing from people's closets. It's just general RPG stuff.
It is quite the game, isn't it? It's just one of those ones. I've got it, like, I played the original and then Got it on PS4, and I bought a Switch, the Switch version of it as well. It is quite the game.
I'm enjoying it, but the problem is that it's trying to do new fantasy. Like it's deliberately not being like, oh, we're the Lord of the Rings. It's trying to make its new world with new monsters and new lore, and I just don't have the energy to care.
Yeah,
I
it's
just
not
want
memorable
generic
enough to
fantasy.
justify. Look,
Well,
all I'm
I mean,
saying
it is
is, if you're gonna
generic
make a new
MMO,
fantasy world, if you're gonna make a new fantasy world, just make it Xenoblade. Just go as like balls to the wall as you can, and just have everything be on the backs of demons or something.
Yeah, but how
And
much do you care about the lore of Xenoblade, Alan?
I care about it more than you expect, but less than you hope.
Secretly, Alan
right.
just plays it for the big boobs. That's why
No,
Alan's
so
actually playing it.
for those of you who have not been aware of my stream, I have been on a journey to unlock the giant titty bunny lady for about 12 weeks. I finally got her after getting Cosmos, who was literally a 0.1% chance roll. So like it took so long to get this titty bunny lady. It was so worth it. The joke was made.
Secretly, Alan is a big fan of the fan service. Trent, what about you? What have you been playing?
What have I been playing? Well, last night I was playing the Pokemon game, because you told me I must play it, and then the night before I was playing the old-timey Phoenix Wright, but I got sick of like pressing buttons, so I just put it on storage mode, and so I wasn't really playing it. I was more watching it. But I'm like, finished the first case, so getting up there. I really like the animations, how he's like slamming on the desk and then he's like, oh shit, what have I done? I'm turning into a lawyer. And then right at the end, he's like, objection. And it's great.
You are gonna enjoy that one. It is good. It is very long, very, very long, both of those games. They go forever. So yeah, enjoy the content. But no, they are actually quite good. You'll have
I've heard really good things about it. I also love the way they get around the Sherlock Holmes license. I really enjoy that.
Yeah, that wasn't actually, that's actually not original to them. Maurice LeBlanc actually was the first one to do that with Lupin.
Yeah, because
Lupin
then
novels.
Lupin the Third, yeah, and then
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, it's a well-known way of getting around that problem, and I'm all for it. It probably trolls the estate of Arthur Conan Doyle big time, which is also a good thing.
Because they don't have enough money as is.
Yeah, but it still would troll them. It would be great. I'd love to see how angry they are. They'd be playing this game and they'd be like, they'd be fuming. So they
I've
go
heard
out.
the estate was actually the reason why the Western release of Great Ace Attorney was delayed, because they're very snickety about how Sherlock is represented.
Probably is.
This isn't Sherlock. This is Herlock.
Yeah, this is Sherlock. So
very different character.
sucked into
OC,
them.
do not steal.
IP trolls. Anyway, in terms of what am I playing? What have I been playing? So, I guess 2, 3 probably really stand out because obviously it's been a very busy week. I've had a lot of big games to play. Samurai Warriors 5 has been my big jam this week. It's been excellent. I do love Samurai Warriors, my heroes. It's really good. It's one that I would actually recommend.
That game?
I would actually. Sorry.
Is Samanosuke from that horror game Onimusha in that game? Because that would be really, really good.
This is
extra little thing.
This is real peeps, Alan. This is real people.
Samanosuke is real to me, Matt.
This is a real peeps game, but I would actually recommend this one to people who haven't played Warriors games in the past. This one has a good quality story mode and is just really well designed. It's really accessible and a good starting point for anybody who may be curious about Warriors games and or Japanese history. So that's a good one. I've also been playing Neo, the World Ends with Ya, and I love it. I kind of love it a lot.
I'd be playing that if I stopped ordering stuff from Amazon and stopped having things shipped after launch day, even though I'm a Prime member, and then they ship it with the slowest bus to Tamworth, and then I get it like 20 weeks later. It just came like on Friday.
It has the most spectacular soundtrack of a game I think I've ever played. I just love that soundtrack so much. I need to find a copy of it on CD or something or import it from Japan. It's really good. The gameplay itself is also good, but it's just the soundtrack. Like, this is one of those games that I'm just playing just because I love the music. And it's great. And then finally, there's a simulation game that got released on PC called Idle Manager, which I hugely recommend. I went into it assuming that it was going to be a game that I could have a laugh about at Alan's expense on the podcast, but
No, I'm not letting you. No. Explain yourself. Defend yourself. Are you actively going out of your way to find games that you're like, oh, Alan will really get pissed at this one?
Yeah, well, I was going to screenshot it at you as we were on the podcast. But
the most is the brazen confidence with which you're just like, yeah, obviously.
But it's actually really good. Like, it is a really good simulator. It's very challenging, like really difficult. I've had 4 different idle groups fail, bankrupt, and everybody get fired.
Like
But
in real life.
yeah, just in real life, just like. But yeah, it's just it's so complex in terms of the actual simulation stuff and the different ways that you can build a business up and get this group going, and you can be nice and conservative, or you can be lewd as hell in terms of the music you produce. But it's not actually a fan service game at all. There is no fan service in it whatsoever. It's just all numbers and stuff, and it's just not what I expected. I expected it to be a stupid fan servicey nonsense game, but instead it's a genuine simulation that kind of tackles the issues of idle culture in Japan in an interesting way. So yeah, I haven't reviewed that one yet, but it's going to be an interesting review to write, and I highly recommend people look at it if you've got any interest whatsoever in simulators. So, on that note, let's go to music now. Hatsune Miku, let's play. What are we going to play? Let's play Dear Coco Girls, because it's freezing here and that song is nice and tropical. Let's go. 私の縄で渡して And welcome back. Okay, so let's have a chat about the games that are coming out in August. We are into the other end of the year now. It's ticking along, and there's a lot of stuff coming out that you'll be able to play to distract you from how lousy the rest of the world is throughout the month. Starting with the PlayStation 5, which is actually starting to get some games released on it, which is really nice for those of us who bought the console early on. First up, if you're into your big-time multiplayer games, PvP and PvE and all those kind of terms, and Battle Royale, there's a game called Hunter's Arena Legends coming out on August 3. That'll certainly distract you.
That is also free on PS Plus, I believe.
Yes, it is going to be a freebie, which is what they need to get people to play, because if there isn't 30 people playing, then you haven't got much of a game. So, yeah, hopefully for them, it gets some audience. It's got a nice vampire woman with big boobs on the art cover. So,
Oh my god.
well, I'm just saying it as
It's
I
7
see it.
a.m. It's too early for you to be this horny.
I'm just saying it as I see it, Alan. It's not me. It's not my fault. They should dress the characters up more if they don't want me to comment.
Oh my god. Matt, no.
All right.
Break out the Jordan Peterson voice. I'll do it.
Moving on. The Falconer Warrior Edition comes out on August 5. It's got a nice bird on the cover, and I actually do mean bird, not the others. not more jokes. But that's a BAFTA-nominated air combat game where you play as a bird and attack other birds. That's why it's called Falconer. So it's coming out on August 5. Also on August 5, there is a Strategic Mind Blitzkrieg. That is a turn-based strategy game set in World War II, because there hasn't been one of those before. But who knows? Maybe this one will be really good. It's on PlayStation 5. We haven't had one of those on PS5 yet, so there you go. Godfall: Fire and Darkness comes out on August 10. Did anybody play Godfall at all?
No, is that the game that came out that everyone didn't know about and no one gave a shit about?
Yeah, that's a launched game on PlayStation 5 that was absolutely terrible, and for some reason they've got a big-time expansion coming out. I don't know why, for the two fans of it on the planet. There you go. Fire and Darkness, August 10. Speaking of expansions, Assassin's Creed Valhalla gets the Siege of Paris on August 12. So you can be a Viking attacking Paris now. That's good, I'm sure. Content. Yeah. On August 13, Hades comes out on PlayStation 5. If you haven't played that yet, then something's wrong with you, but you can play it on PS5 then as well. That's a really good roguelike, that is. And then we move to sports titles. August 17, we got Madden NFL 22. If you like your Maddens, then you finally get one on PlayStation 5. I assume that's the first one that's native to PS5, or is it getting?
Yeah, it will be. Yeah.
So who knows? So usually EA screws up the first one on a generation big time. Just from track records, the first Madden on PS4 was pretty terrible, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, you always skip the first year. It's just a rule of thumb.
Because they
FIFA, NHL, don't.
Yeah, it takes them a while to get their engines ready for the new gen. So I'm not expecting much from this one. But if you are a fan of NFL, then you haven't really got much of a choice, have you? You're going to play that. There's some Ghost of Tsushima thing which I'm not paying attention to because screw that. That does come out in August if you're a fan of that game, but whatever. That's kind of it for the PS5.
Well, isn't Psychonauts also coming out on PS5?
In August? Not according to this list.
August 27th.
Not according to this list.
It's coming out on PS4. There's no PS5 version. That's my fault, yeah.
Well, we've got to get to the PS4, so let's jump over there, shall we?
Yeah.
Alan's ahead of me.
I want to get Psychonauts. It's
Yeah.
literally the most excited I've been about a game that I've waited for oh my god. Oh no, 17 years.
All right, so on PlayStation 4, before we get to Psychonauts, that's later on in the month. First up, we have a game called Dodgeball Academia coming out on August 5. And I don't know, I haven't played a dodgeball game in quite a while, but I used to like the various dodgeball games that got released, so I am mildly intrigued by what that one might offer. But then we've also got, so on the PlayStation 4, for some reason, in addition to Strategic Mind Blitzkrieg, which was also coming out on PlayStation 5, there's also Strategic Mind the Pacific, which I would imagine is the version that is on boats between us, the US and Japan, same period, World War II. So you get 2 on PlayStation 4 if you want to play those. If you're into your turn-based strategy games, there's 2 of them on PS4. Zengen comes out on August 6 on the PlayStation 4. That is an anime-infused action RPG and roguelike. So there's been a few of those over the years. You get another one on August 6. Moving on. Godfall comes out on PlayStation 4 on August 10.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because I'm sure that's the game most people were looking forward to.
Yeah, that's the game that it can only run on the PS5, except for when it runs on PS4.
Yeah, they managed to find a way to make it work on PS4. There you go. Good on them, I guess. I'm sure it'll pick up a lot of fans on the PS4.
Yeah,
I'm
everyone is clamoring for Godfall. Yeah.
On August 13, Paw Patrol the movie Adventure City Calls. That's going to be the game of the year for sure.
Speedrun tech, dude. I'd be ready for that.
Paw Patrol. Madden's also coming out on the PlayStation 4, so who knows? Maybe it's good on that. Who knows? Who knows? Or it might be the legacy one, which is literally just the updated rosters, like they do with FIFA on the Switch.
I'd say Paw Patrol is better than Madden.
Probably.
It's going to be better than Madden, but anyway.
Probably. Oh, here's an interesting one. August 18, Tetris Effect Connected comes out. That is the original Tetris Effect with all new co-op and competitive online and local multiplayer modes. I could see myself losing a lot of time. Competitive Tetris Effect. That was a good
how
game.
has PlayStation only just got it?
Oh, is that already on Xbox, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
12 months ago.
Right, so
That's what we get for not caring about trans console.
it's coming out on PlayStation as well. Isn't that good? Here's one that I've been interested in for quite a while. King's Bounty 2. That's coming out on August 24. And it is a tactical turn-based kind of fantasy RPG thing. If you go and look up screenshots, it actually looks really good. So I've been looking forward to that. I've had it on my radar all year, so it's finally coming out. That's August 24. Aliens Fireteam Elite comes out on August 24 as well.
That could be okay. That could genuinely be okay, because it's Left 4 Dead with aliens.
Okay, so it's Left 4 Dead for aliens. It's not being made by Gearbox, so it's probably...
There's a chance it's not going to be ass. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you join the aliens and let the aliens rule the world?
No, because it's a game where you shoot them with gun, and then they go, blah!
Not everything can be resolved with violence.
Disagree. Hard disagree.
I have been waiting for a HD re-release or anything, like they did with the Turok games, for example. Just
AVP?
Yeah, Aliens vs. Predator. I really love the original Aliens vs. Predator. I even played that a lot online back when I was younger and more into first-person shooting things. But yeah, I really liked AVP. I was a Predator. I did good. I killed lots of human dudes. That was a really good.
It was really violent as well. Like for that time, that was extremely violent.
Yeah, it was really fast, very violent, and the differences between the three were really significant. So the campaigns themselves felt different because you got to play as all three, and the multiplayer had a really good texture to it thanks to the three very different races. Yeah, it was really good. It was so much better than the movies.
I mean, that's like literally the lowest bar you could set.
Well, I was looking forward to the movies because of the games. I think AVP was probably the last time I really loved a first-person shooter. So they just need to re-release it. Don't do anything. Don't touch it. Don't mess with it. Just re-release it, like they did with Turok. And Psychonauts is still not on this list. So what times are coming out, Alan? Tell me.
27th. No, 25th, sorry.
25th.
Yeah.
Okay.
That game will be phenomenal because It just will be, and I don't care.
But you're going to play it on easy mode, aren't you, Alan?
Yeah, I'm gonna play on easy mode. I'm gonna shit and piss and fart the entire time. No one can stop me. No one can tell me I'm playing it wrong. I don't give a shit. No, that game's gonna be really good. I'm excited. I'm extremely excited. Like I said, I've been waiting for that game for like 16, 17 years. I'm keen. It's so creative already. Like the stuff that I've seen, I've actively tried to avoid looking at it, but like it just looks great. Like just wonderful, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, the first one was so loved. I'm not surprised there's a lot of hype for this new one.
It's like a quiet hype, though. It's not like gamer hype. It's just a bunch of nerds being like, oh, yeah, Psychonauts time, which I kind of like a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's pretty low-key for a release that's probably going to do quite well, but
it is also on Xbox Game Pass as well, so if you have an Xbox console and you are subscribed to the Game Pass, you will get access to it, and it's worth it.
Or you could do the right thing and just buy it.
I have bought it already.
Not you. I'm talking to the people out there listening to the podcast, Alan. Don't subscribe to Game Pass. It's bad. Buy games.
No, I have done it to Game Pass because I don't want to buy games on the Xbox.
Ooh, Alan.
I already have a PS5. I don't want to buy things on the Xbox One.
You're naughty.
Yeah. Whatever.
Switch releases for August because there's going to be a lot of those. Dragon
Can you skip all the ones that are bad?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
We'll have like 3 games.
Dragon Star Varnia comes out on August 3. That was actually pretty neat. It's a Compile Heart RPG, and it played heavily on fairy tale traditions and stuff. It's a mix of kind of visual novel length cutscenes and turn-based combat. I quite liked it on PS4. Actually, I liked it a lot, and I'll give it a go on Switch, see how it goes. They're usually not the world's greatest ports, but as long as it's playable, which it should be a good time anyway. Now I'm scrolling through all the stuff that I don't care about. The Falconer comes out on Switch as well. Again, that is a BAFTA-nominated air combat game where you play as a bird. That comes out on August 5. Dodgeball Academia comes out on Switch as well. That's probably where I'll play it, I guess, because Dodgeball seems like a thing you want to play on a handheld. Zenjin comes out on August 6 on Switch as well, so that's good. There's an awful lot of games that I'm scrolling past which just don't seem to be very interesting at all. Oh, here's one that's going to be a sleepy hit, I think. Shadowverse Champions Battle comes out on August 10. Now, Shadowverse is one of those mobile phone card games which looks and feels a little bit like Hearthstone. This one is coming out on Switch as a full-priced game, so no microtransactions, which is good because most card games have those really annoying loot boxes, or not loot boxes, card packs that you got to buy. But this one is everything's on the game itself when you purchase it up front, and it's got a narrative mode, so it's a little bit like Pokemon trading card game from the Game Boy Color, but in 3D and stuff. The demo's available now. You can go and play it. I've been playing through the review build of it, and it's going to be a positive review. I really enjoy it. And it's all single player. You don't have to play multiplayer too. You can just enjoy the card game without having to deal with all the stuff that usually comes with card games these days. Still going through. Love Squire is a romantic comedy visual.
No, I said things that weren't bad.
Screenshots, go to post screenshots on the Twitter for Alan's benefit here. A romantic comedy visual novel dating simulator with a nostalgic touch of old school JRPG combat.
Oh, no.
Let's have a look. Let's Google up Love Squire screenshots.
Harvard, can you make him stop?
I'm curious, Squire as in like the guy that helps the knight?
No, Squire. E-S Squire.
Oh, what does that mean?
I don't know, but it sounds stupid.
I'm
I'm sorry if you're the developer of that game, but like...
This is good, Alan.
It's not.
This is good.
Please do not tweet it at me. Please don't.
Tweet it at him.
No, don't. I don't want to deal with it.
You have to see this, Alan. You'll like it.
I'm not going to like it.
It's definitely you.
I'm not going to like it, Matt.
Okay, I've tweeted at you. It's good. Anyway, it's going to be a game. Moving on. Paw Patrol comes out on Switch as well. If you're into Paw Patrol, that's August 13. Vision novel.
Sucks. This absolutely fucking sucks. Why would you? No. No, okay. You two need to see this art. This art is not good enough to justify the amount of titty on display.
Is there a ratio? Is it like you must be this skilled at art in order to?
No, it's just like it just looks shit. It looks really shit.
What is with that castle? It's like a
Yeah, I'm
sword
confused
and
by
it's got a face.
No, it looks like a castle in the background of the Little Mermaid VHS art where it has like penises.
For anybody tuning into the podcast, please do follow Alan on Twitter. It's always fun. On August 24, King's Bounty 2 comes out on Switch as well. That's where I'm going to play it. I am looking forward to that, as I mentioned before. Fantasy, turn-based RPG stuff. It's Western themed rather than Japanese. But yeah, it looks good. It looks like my kind of thing. And then I think the big release for the Switch is probably No More Heroes 3. That comes out on August 27. That's going to be a wild good time.
Yeah, it's going to be cool as hell. I'm excited. I was saying this before the podcast started recording, but I'm going to probably play that like for the first time ever and be a big No More Heroes boy for the first time ever.
Yeah, it's
You're
going to
not
be
going to go back and play the earlier ones?
I might. If it goes on sale on the Switch, I might do it. You know? It's like one of those things where I just was not willing to spend that much money on them because like I knew that I probably wouldn't like them like a lot, but I knew I'd like them enough to justify it at some point.
Yeah, they're interesting games.
Yeah. I like the part where you go, you know?
No, they do have good energy. They're very much Goichi Suda specials, so you probably know what you're getting going into them. But yeah, they are good. I like them. And then there's one more release on Switch, which is worth mentioning. Prinny presents Nipponichi Classics. Prinny presents NIS Classics Volume 1, which is 2 older Nipponichi RPGs in the one pack. You're looking at like, God knows, 100 hours of gameplays in those two. They're both pretty well respected titles. So I think that one will probably go down pretty well for JRPG fans. And that's a Switch exclusive, August 31 for that one. So right at the end of the month. All right. So, Trent, if you have to pick one game this month, what are you going to pick?
I'm just going to play last month's games. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to play Neo, World Ends With You. I'm going to play Animal Crossing.
I'm sure that's your answer every month.
I'm going to play
Yeah,
Animal
you're just going to say, I'm going to
mate.
play Animal Crossing. It's been the same answer for 12 months at this point.
Mate, well, there's a new update, you know, and the data mine suggests that, you know, Barusta's finally coming in the next update. We gotta be patient. And, you know, it's all about, you know, drinking that bubble tea, which is now in the game.
Oh no, they've caved.
Harvard.
Being cool.
Harvard, what's your pick?
Well, no offense to all the games we talked about, but this is a bit of a nothing month. I don't know. I can't think of anything that on this list that makes me super excited. So I will not give the Trent answer and say I'm just gonna try Falconer. Let's play that game this month.
Falconer? Yeah, that looks alright.
It has a BAFTA, whatever that means, Alan.
It means it speaks like this. It does. That's how you can know.
Sounds like you guys are playing all the games from like the Xbox.
Yeah, but on consoles that are worth playing them on.
You know, I played Falconer when it first came out, and I don't know, I just couldn't get into it. It just felt really weird and boring. So that's my 2 cents. Don't play Falconer.
My man's out here talking about like Falconer being boring when he's playing like Animal Crossing for the 11th month when there's been no content. It's like, I've been dreading opening Animal Crossing, honestly, because I know that I've not touched it since like September last year.
You're gonna have a lot of cockroaches to
Oh, everything's
It's
gonna be
like one
sweep
giant
up.
weed.
Yeah, I'm gonna have so much weed, dude. Alright,
then you're
I'm
gonna
gonna
play
look forward
Animal
to
Crossing.
Psychonauts.
Psychonauts for you, Alan?
Psychonauts, yeah.
Cool.
With
Yeah,
Baz.
as I mentioned in my list, I'm going with King's Bounty 2. I'm genuinely looking forward to that. I haven't played a Western style tactics fantasy thing for ages, so it is a genre I like, and I'm looking forward to that one. I'm also looking forward to that thing that I tweeted at Alan, just because.
Okay, so I just wanted to take a look at it, and it is a parody of what's that Michelangelo's artwork where Adam is like reaching out to God,
Adam
right?
and the God, yeah.
But
It's
instead
a
of
parody
God,
that.
but instead of Adam, it's a anime protagonist who has no eyes, and we all know what that means. And instead of God, it's multiple anime gods.
Yeah, it's not only is it shitting on classical art, but it's also bad. So, I'm not mad. I'm just pissed. Anyway,
I'm pretty sure I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 star just
No,
because
you
it's
do
going
that,
to annoy
I'm
Alan.
leaving. I'm taking
what
the
I do.
house.
That's what I do. So on that note, let's go to some music.
I get to pick music. It's Psychonauts music.
Psychonauts music? Okay, that's okay. You can pick Psychonauts music. Welcome back, everybody. Okay, so the theme of this podcast this month is remakes and remasters and re-imaging. And what other re's can you do? Re-release, I guess.
Rebuild.
Re-stuff. Taking games from yesteryear and bringing them into the modern era. What is the way to do it? Which ways do we prefer? Do we want developers to kind of stick to the original vision as close as possible, or do we actually want to see them completely redo the games, I guess?
Fix the busted stuff.
Yeah, I mean, what works, what doesn't. That's really the core theme of this month's podcast. There wasn't anything that in particular inspired it, I guess, but there's always things coming out every month anyway. So just before we recorded this podcast, the first wave of the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters came out on PC and mobile. So let's start with talking about them, I guess, as a way of introing into the subject. They came out, you can get now Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 3 with this new re-release, and I was interested in it mostly for Final Fantasy III because
Yeah,
it is
3's the good one. Yeah.
No,
Well,
no.
for-
Three's.
for a number of reasons. Firstly, this version of 3 hasn't actually been released in English before. The only version of Final Fantasy 3 that was previously available in English was the 3D remake, which they produced for the DS ages ago, and then ported to other platforms. But this kind of 2D pixel version of Final Fantasy 3, which does have a slightly different story and approach, that one hasn't been available before in English. So that was my hook. That's what got me into buying these things on Steam. And I'm not disappointed with them, but they do highlight, I guess, some of the issues that I have with remakes potentially. So these games have really good art for a start. The developers have really kind of made sure they captured the original appeal of those games while making the sprites a little bit more detailed and whatever for 2021. But yeah, they're nicely nostalgic, and they've remastered the soundtrack in a way which is quite effective. The music is really nice. It captures the original appeal, but does again modernize it for 2021. So it's all going good until a dialogue box pops up, and then you see the font that they've chosen for the game, and the font is bad. Like
The thing that
bad
gets me,
with a
right?
capital B, and it kind of highlights the point that if you're going to remake a game, for me, the most important thing is that there is consistency with the quality of the remake, that everything looks like it's meant to be together, and they've got art which is nostalgic enough. They've got music which is nice and nostalgic, but then they've got this hyper modern font that they've used for the text. And if it was placed on another game where it's kind of native to the game, then I'd be happier with it. I think it's quite a readable font, but in the context of Final Fantasy remakes or the pixel remasters, it's horrible and it doesn't work and it clashes with it and it kind of ruins the aesthetic of the
What
game.
surprises me, right, is the fact that they know that there is a good font for Final Fantasy, because they've used a good font from Final Fantasy for literally every other modern Final Fantasy game, and yet they chose something that it's not like offensive, it's just bad, you know? Like I would
Well,
be
like I
so
said,
much
if it was,
I'd be
if it
so
was-
much more chill with it if they just actively outwardly said, like, all right, we're using Comic Sans because fuck, why not? You know? Like, I would love that. Like, we're going to use Papyrus for every bit of dialogue because, we want to.
well,
I would
once
respect
again, I
that
mean,
so much
that,
more.
that font would work on other games fine. It just doesn't work against the pixel art. It just doesn't. And I can only assume that they chose it because maybe it's clear on a small mobile screen. But yeah, it's not a good font. Not for these games.
The other thing,
But
too,
Square
is
Enix, sorry, I've just quickly finished with it.
still mad.
Yeah, I'm not mad. It's just Square Enix does this a lot with their remasters and re-releases as such. One of the issues that I've had, and I've talked about on the podcast in the past, with the Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9 re-releases that Square Enix has done, that they go to the effort to HD up the characters so that they're all kind of clear on modern consoles. But because they can't touch the backgrounds are still fuzzy from the PlayStation era, and because they're pre-rendered, so it would be they'd need to completely redraw them to clean them up. So as a result, you've got these really high quality or quite clear 3D models running around on fuzzy backgrounds, and it just breaks with the aesthetic in a way that the original games didn't. And I would rather that they just kept the fuzzy character models if that's what it was, if that's what they needed to do to keep the consistency. For me, the most important thing with any remake is that they keep the quality of the original, and these Square Enix efforts don't always do that, unfortunately.
I watched an interesting video where they actually explained how the PlayStation 1 Final Fantasy games looked a lot better because they were designed for CRT TVs. So the way that they rendered colors was done in a way that would show up more brightly and more defined using older technology. And the reason why it looks so bad now is because we all have flat screens and we can see all the imperfections that were intentional. So I wonder if something like You know how Sega does the remasters of the Genesis games where they mimic what the old CRT TV would look like on your screen. I wonder if that could have been a solution for Square Enix to look at as well.
Yeah, I think that would have helped. But again, I think if they just kept the character models the same as the originals, if they didn't clean them up so that they looked more like they were a part of the background, it would have been better.
No, but the old
Sometimes,
character models had like 5 pixels for faces. Remember that? Remember
yeah,
that Leon meme? You're the best
but
looking guy here.
Yeah,
But
you're the
that-
best looking guy here. His face is like someone just smushed like an ice cream sandwich all over his face. It's great.
but that would have kept the consistency, you know. That's the thing. For me, the most important thing is that they keep consistency. Where the original had character models and backgrounds, which blurry as they were, they were consistent. These re-releases that they've done have lost that quality, and as a result, I feel like they're visually less immersive. They're less. The suspension of disbelief is a lot harder for me with those games, and it's. I don't know what the solution would be if those character models would look even worse in their fuzzy version of modern consoles. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think the approach that Square Enix has taken with those is necessarily the right one for the aesthetics of those games.
I think
Yeah, I
going
mean, like,
back, sorry.
oh, no, go for it.
Going back to the Sega idea is that they give you choices, right? They give you the choice to represent it pixel for pixel and exactly the way that you would have seen it originally. And they also give you the choice to say, hey, we made a few modern touch-ups. Would you like to use these? And it's your choice. So if you grew up with the game, you can make it look as bad as you or as good as you remember it being. And if you want to see what it would look like with some modern tech added to it, then you can. I remember the R-Type remake did this as well. And they made entire 3D models for all of the ships and all of the enemies, which you can just turn off and turn to pixels. And that is probably not good financial expense because half the entire game is not being used. But I think that's the kind of attitude that a really respectful developer takes to remaster a game, is so that if you want it the original way, you can have it. And if you want the benefit of modern technology, because maybe you didn't grow up with this game, you have that as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously the expensive way of doing things, but then again, Square Enix has the resources, and they certainly charge enough for these things anyway.
How many times has everyone bought Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah, I mean, Final Fantasy 1, this pixel remaster is like $13, which is pretty expensive.
That
for
is
an old game.
absurd for a game that is, like, what, 30 years old?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that'll be my
exactly.
like 5th time buying Final Fantasy 1. It's
Only
a good game,
5?
but
Only 5?
God.
I have like 70 different versions of that game. But yeah, I mean, Square Enix can obviously afford it. The thing is, Square Enix does re-releases which are quite traditional in a lot of ways. Otherwise, like the Legend of Mana. Was it Legend of Mana?
Yeah.
Recent one. That
I don't
one.
Game Boy
understand
games
how
that they
that
put
happens.
onto thing, yeah.
They must have very different teams remastering different things. Because what's it? There's the Mana collection on Switch and the Final Fantasy Legend. What's that series? The Saga collection on Switch are excellent remasters, excellent collections. Why
Well, they're
didn't
not
they do that for
remasters.
Final
They're just flat re-releases. But
Yeah, but
that's
the
what
package is amazing, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Square Enix does that. They just release some of their old games in all their old glory on these things as well. And people, I think those are better in a lot of ways than these efforts to touch things up because they do maintain that consistency. Like I love the Saga games. They're black and white and Game Boy-ish and very old looking to the eyes now, but because they haven't gone and added random colors to bits and pieces of the game, it looks a lot more consistent to play on Switch. So I much prefer that. It's like the George Lucas thing, you know. Star Wars didn't need touching up, but George Lucas keeps popping in to fix bits of his old films, and in the process, he's kind of ruining those films. So yeah, Square Enix has this habit, this really weird habit with some of its titles, especially Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, where it touches up stuff that it doesn't need to. to re-release these things.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an attitude that a lot of people are taking now for some reason, where they'll just look at like their old work and say, oh no, we can make it better now. Like now with our knowledge that we know at this current point, we're gonna make it the best that it possibly can be. And that's not necessarily the way that it is, because a lot of those things are built around the limitations of the time. And a lot of the things that make those games charming or like nice for people to play now, they're things that, like, if you change something like the font, it's just aesthetically weird. It doesn't make sense. It's like trying to up-res everything and in the process kind of ruining it. It's like removing the fog in Silent Hill. Like it doesn't actually make the game better. It makes it markedly worse.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, that was a great example.
It's a lack of understanding on the part of the remake team, and also in the Silent Hill case, it's literally Konami's fault. It's just Konami's fault for losing the files. Like, they suck.
Yeah, that was a really good example, wasn't it? Like the re-releases of, what was it, Silent Hill 2 and 3?
2 and 3, yeah.
Yeah. So those games, you're right, they were limited back when they originally developed them. So the fog was a solution in a way to a technical issue. But they did it in a way that added atmosphere to the game, and it became so core to the experience that removing it definitely lessened the experience itself. So yeah, that's the point. If you are going to just straight re-release something, then my view is you should not be making small changes as well in the process.
I honestly think the best change that can be made to any video game is to add a speed up function, because a lot of old games have a lot of time wasting elements, and you get rid of that instantly by adding a speed up.
Yeah, like the Final Fantasy games do that, which is a good thing.
Yeah,
I do agree with that.
I was thinking about FF10 particularly, because you can get through a lot of that game's most tedious moments by just using the speed up function, and it makes it so much better.
Yeah, I totally agree. Those kinds of small quality of life things are a good thing. But they don't detract from the experience itself. You can still enjoy everything about Final Fantasy X with that speed up option. You just, like you say, push through the stuff that doesn't work in a modern context so well.
It's
my kind of thought there. But, I do agree that that's a good approach. And actually, I think Final Fantasy X and 12 are good examples of re-release.
12 improves itself 100,000% by adding the speed up function.
They are good examples of re-releases that they don't touch up stuff that they don't need to. They're just small quality of life improvements, but the core experience, the aesthetics and all of that is maintained, which is what I think is better for a re-release. If you're going to re-release something, then you should be aiming to make as few changes that aren't necessary for quality of life as possible.
Yeah, exactly. It's not about changing stupid visual things, because realistically, if you're buying a remake of a video game, or a remaster, whatever, of a video game, you're not going in there expecting like the greatest graphics that you've ever seen. No, you're not. You can't be doing that. What you should be expecting is an experience that is comparable to what it would have been like to play it on original release, but with the knowledge that things can be updated and fixed. It's why I got so angry at the whole series of ports they made for like the Metal Gear Solid games, where a lot of the control stuff should have been fixed for MGS2 and MGS3. MGS3 less so, but MGS2 definitely. When they released that on the Vita and they released it on PlayStation 3, and they just didn't fix some of the stuff that could have been fixed really easily, just like for user interface stuff. And it shocks me. And then you have other things.
Not a fan of Konami.
I really don't like Konami, is what I'm trying to say.
And it's also
they suck.
It's also an art thing, right? It's also an art thing that the original game was a vision of the original artist, and you do need to keep that in mind too if you're going to re-release something. If the goal is to just kind of tap into that original game and give people that experience again, then you do need to give them the experience that was originally intended by the creators. So yeah, I mean, things change, and I guess we'll talk about that in the next section, but things change if you're going to remake a game. Then
Oh, it's
What-
hugely different. Like
Yeah,
we're talking,
it's hugely
like it's a different type of game.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think with re-releases or remasters as well, remasters are much the same thing. I prefer a softer touch, I think, in terms of
Well, I
what
mean,
to the original vision.
the one that annoys me the most out of all the remakes and remasters is the Call of Duty 4 remaster that they released, which
Isn't it
didn't
just like an
include all the
entirely new
DLC.
game?
No, no, they released Call of Duty 4 as a pre-order bonus for I think Advanced Warfare or some garbage.
Oh, you mean that one?
Yeah, and then they also released the DLC packs for that game, but they didn't release all the DLC. They didn't include it in the base game. They released it separately, which you then had to buy in a re-release of the original game, which is
Didn't
just
they remake the entirety of Modern Warfare?
yeah, they did, yeah,
And that's just a different game?
yeah.
Huh.
No, I'm not trying to defend it. It's the dumbest, absolute just garbage that I've ever seen in my life. It's so bad. It makes me so angry because like, why would you bother to release a game and say, oh, this is the HD definitive version of the game, and then say, oh yeah, by the way, here's like the content that we stole away from it. Like,
To make money.
yeah,
I mean,
what's
I'm
the
sure we're
point?
not
They
fans of
re-release
Activision, right?
the same game each year. They're technically all the same game. You just shoot people, you shoot the
they're
bad
not the
guys.
same game. Oh,
I think the thing about Modern Warfare or COD 4 though is that when you re-release a game like that, you're effectively making a statement to say that yes, technology has changed this much over this much time, but the original vision is still valuable, is still timeless in a way that not all games from that period are, right? So it's still good that they're valuing the choices they made in that original title. But
I
you're
mean,
right, the DLC thing is awful.
The
the
shooter
thing is just like blatant cash grab.
the shooter genre is probably a good example. Like, if they were to take GoldenEye, for example, let's talk about GoldenEye. If they were going to re-release
I was going to
GoldenEye,
talk about GoldenEye on the other section.
if they were going to re-release GoldenEye, right, and we're talking about a re-release here, not a remake, a re-release. If they were going to re-release GoldenEye, then I would want them to fix the controls, obviously, because it's pretty unplayable. Yeah, it's pretty unplayable by today's standards. I have actually tried to play GoldenEye in a not too distant past, and it's difficult. But I would not want them to go and do HD character remodels because the environments would not work with modern character models. And I wouldn't want them to touch the AI up either because the AI is pretty shunky by today's standards. But what I remember about GoldenEye and what I loved about it was the AI at the time, because it was interesting, it was different, it was pushing things forwards. So if they were to change that or touch it up or fix it or whatever they wanted to term it, I would have a big problem with that. I would want them to preserve the experience of GoldenEye, just make it accessible in 2021. So, yeah, I mean, in saying that, if they were going to re-release GoldenEye, they would go and fix all the stuff that I didn't want them to fix, and it wouldn't be the same experience, and I'd be pretty disappointed with it. But
Orchestrated
the games industry
soundtrack,
works.
HD graphics.
Well, that's the thing. They would. You just know if they were going to re-release GoldenEye, they would HD up all the character models so they look stupid against those backgrounds, which are pretty empty, which they wouldn't really touch, and it would just look like a mess. You just know that's what they would do.
The source mod, GoldenEye Source, that was a pretty cool mod. That was fun. That was playable. That was cool. It looked nostalgically close.
That was a good mod.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't played that in years. I haven't thought about that in absolute years. Oh my lord. Okay. It's like nostalgia just like hit me really, really hard. Oh. Yo, they should do that.
Does it even still exist anymore? It's probably gone.
I think it
It's
does, yeah.
Probably been deleted off the internet.
I hope not. It's good.
On that note, shall we go to some music and then come back and talk about remakes?
Yeah.
Music. Harvard, pick a song. Any song.
Overworld theme from Final Fantasy 1.
Welcome back, everybody. Okay, so we just talked about re-releases. Let's talk about remakes now. So this is when a developer takes a base game and basically puts their own vision over the top of it. And to talk about Square Enix again, I guess, Final Fantasy VII Remake is a good example, I think, of this done well. This done very, very well indeed. That the game is almost, I mean, it follows the broad plot line of the original Final Fantasy VII, but really it's its own thing in every level.
I don't think it's even a remake. Vision. Having played it, it's not a remake. It's its own existing. It's like how Dirge's Cerberus is in its own thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like Final Fantasy VII, a second vision, if that makes sense.
It's like Final Fantasy VII 2.
Well, because Final Fantasy VII 2 implies it's a sequel to Final Fantasy VII. It's more like
it kind of is.
It's like Final Fantasy VII in a parallel universe where the original Final Fantasy VII didn't exist. But then it also, because it's quite subversive to the original Final Fantasy VII's plotline, and it deliberately changes things around to throw players, the game wouldn't be the same if you haven't played Final Fantasy VII as well. So it kind of, it's almost like a response to Final Fantasy VII, if that makes sense.
To make it sound hip and happening with the kids, it's like what's going to happen with the MCU once, once the multiverse is in there and they decide we want to bring back Iron Man, but we don't want to pay Robbie Downey Jr. And then bam, recast, different multiverse, different remake story thing, but it's the new universe.
No, but it's kind of more than that. It's like aesthetically interesting in the way that it plays with the original game.
Compared to Marvel.
I'm sure on some stuff level that will make sense, but
no, I get you. The thing that got me about that game was the fact that it is so willing to just say, I mean, we're just gonna go full on spoiler.
I haven't played it all yet.
Oh, Final Fantasy VII's been around long enough. I don't, people will tune out.
No, I mean the remake.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Okay, so the point of that game by the end of it is the recognition that everything has happened before, and everyone knows that it's happened before, but no one knows exactly what's happened before except for Aerith and Sephiroth. Everyone else is like, "Oh, this is bad. There's ghosts," but then you have two characters who are clearly in the know about what's happened before and know what's going to happen. And I think that's really, really cool as that's why I'm saying it's not really a remake. It's more of a sequel in that regard, because it is sort of going down that route of, oh yeah, this has all happened before. It's like a time loop thing. So
yeah, that's why I quite like my idea of calling it a response.
It's a call and response, I guess.
Yeah, so if Final Fantasy VII is the question as such, Final Fantasy VII Remake is the response to that. So
you don't know this, but you just used the exact terminology that the New South Wales high school curriculum uses to refer to things like Mrs. Dalloway and the hours. So
oh really?
It's a real thing. It's out there.
There you go. So I just applied it to video games. I'm the first one. I'm claiming IP on it. You have to pay me if you're going to call things
He's gaming.
Yeah, it's my term. I've copyrighted it. I've actually already put the application in. It's mine. You can't use it anybody else. But yeah, that's probably the most extreme example of a remake as such that we've seen. I don't know. What are some other examples?
Well, I mean, to go back to GoldenEye, do you guys remember GoldenEye Reloaded on the Wii?
That's a good example of an absolutely terrible remake.
No, okay. I like that game because it was fun and I wanted to have a Call of Duty game on my Wii. And it was a Call of Duty game with James Bond painted over the top of it. And I liked that.
It totally missed the point of GoldenEye. It was...
still shoot people with a gun. That's pretty much the point of GoldenEye.
No, but when you think about what GoldenEye was great for, what people loved about GoldenEye was it felt non-linear, right? As one.
The multiplayer was what a lot of people were there for, and that was done.
Yeah, but also it felt non-linear. It felt like you had these kinds of objectives to achieve. The levels were open by those days standards. I mean, these days it's pretty nonsense, but back in those days it was like you have to explore the level to solve these objectives it wasn't just go from point A to point B, shooting everything and move on like shooters were before GoldenEye. And the Wii one just lost sight of that completely, and it was a very
The Wii one
standard
was just Call of
shooter.
Duty. Yeah,
Yeah, it's just Call of Duty. It was linear levels. It didn't really have objectives. It just, yeah, it missed the point of what people loved about GoldenEye completely.
Yes, but it was a good Call of Duty, and that's all that matters.
Yeah. Exactly.
I
Yeah, I don't know.
Solace.
Oh, that's a game.
One of the Solace.
What about that Warcraft 3 remake?
When we're all not gonna play that though, so why does it matter?
No, it's already come out and it's utter shit. So
Was that a remake or was that just a re-release?
no, they said it was a remake and then they took away all the features that made it a remake. So now it was just technically a re-release. And then they went over it and said, if you make anything in this game, we're gonna steal it.
Oh, that's right. It was the mod thing that upset people.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, also the Diablo 2 remake, which I will not be playing now for reasons everyone's probably very aware of, makes me very sad because I want to play Diablo 2. But
was that really a remake though? Because again, isn't it just
yeah, they built over it. They had to build over the game to do it.
right?
Yeah, because the original game ran at like 12 frames a second or something.
Yeah,
so,
but is upping the frame rate really a remake?
No, they've like rebuilt the game based off of that, so it's still using the same like calculations and stuff, but they've had to rebuild everything else on top of it, which is why you can then swap between the two forms at the same time. I'd argue it is, but like barely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's the same thing with like Demon Souls. I mean realistically, the only thing they changed with Demon Souls was just the visuals. But I would say that it goes so far into like fixing some others like tiny small things with Demon Souls that it's like okay.
Yeah, I mean Demon Souls. You are right. I mean Demon Souls is Demon Souls a remake? Is Demon Souls a remaster?
I think Demon Souls is a remake. They fixed some things. They added in that like bit at the end, which means you can skip past that dickhead dragon, which everyone hated. Everyone hated that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I really like Demon Souls. I think that was a good example of it, whatever it is. But I'm just not sure if I would term it a remake or a remaster. It's not a re-release because
it's all the Blue Point stuff, really. Like the Shadow of the Colossus one as well was also fantastic.
It's excellent, but again, it questions whether it's a real remake or a remaster. I think the lines are blurred there. For me, a remake is something a lot more substantial. Like I'm thinking not just Final Fantasy VII, but also the Trails of Mana remake that they made.
Where it's an entirely new game.
They
it's
took
the worst voice acting in the world. Yes,
it does have the worst voice acting, but they did take a 2D game and make it 3D in a way that was just transformative. It was a completely different experience. Really good. I really love both the original and the remake. But that for me is an actual remake. That's where a remake is where it's only based on the original property, but it is its own creative vision. I mean, that's kind of the way I think about it, that it's just so entirely different that the director of the remake is really the artist behind it. Whereas a remaster, like Demon Souls, for example, Demon Souls is still Miyazaki's work. It's been touched up by Bluepoint in a very significant way. But
well, then what's
Trails
the reboot
of
then?
Mana, sorry?
What's a reboot then?
A reboot is just a new game in the series, isn't it?
Yeah, a reboot's really just a new game for me.
Okay, so a remaster is a game that has been touched up. A re-release is a game that has not been touched up and it's just being put up. A remake is taking something from the ground up and redoing it. And then a reboot is a sequel that rebuilds the entire canon.
Yes, and a reboot is just a marketing term whenever a developer is like, we're going to make a new game in the series, which didn't sell well, so we killed it.
No. Let's put this within
It's
logic.
Dead Space.
Okay, so a remake. Wait, where was I up to? What were the terms? Remake, remaster. Yeah. So a remaster is Skyward Sword. Skyward Sword should be remade, and Breath of the Wild is a reboot.
No, not really.
Breath
reboot,
of
you
the
have to
Wild-
have time before.
I think Breath of the Wild is just a plain sequel. I don't think it's a reboot. Because it's not like they were trying to take a series that was unpopular and make it popular by giving it another shot. But yeah, Skyward Sword is the example of a remaster because they didn't do too much to it. It really needed to be a remake. As much as I enjoy Skyward Sword, it needed a little bit more work than what they gave it.
Oh, it is hot trash. It is now sitting in my Switch with only me playing up until the when you first get to the first like evil sword guy, like the first time you see him.
It's
Yes.
hot trash then. That's why I bought it.
Well, I thought it would be playable. I remember it being playable on the Wii, but it's just not. It's not playable.
What would you call Link's Awakening HD, Matt?
Oh, that's definitely a remake.
Yeah, it's 100% a remake.
That's 100% a remake. They deliberately made it look like, or they deliberately made it, keep to, I guess, the aesthetics of the original. Like they definitely tried to recall the original. That's what word I'm looking for. They tried to make sure that you were aware that it was built on the Game Boy game, but it is definitely a top to bottom remake. It's a fundamentally different experience.
Isn't it like a 1-to-1 reproduction of the original game world, though?
Yeah, but the aesthetics, the change of perspective, the additional detail they got through the graphics, all of that stuff does make it its own thing. For an example, I guess, of a 3D up-res, whatever, that is still just a remaster, I'd say this Secret of Mana remake. They called it a remake, but it really is just a take the base game.
We took the game and we turned it 3D.
Yeah, that's exactly it, and it was terrible.
No one liked it, so we don't talk about it anymore.
So they fixed it. They fixed it with Trials of Mana. They went and actually remade it that time. So I mean, these definitions are fluid. It's a bit hard to pin down some games as to what they really are, but I think that those are pretty workable definitions. And for me, it's only really the remake where it's an original creative vision on top of whatever the game is that it was based on. And there are some times where I don't want them to do that much to it either. I would rather it just be a re-release. For example, you said Dead Space somewhere. I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned that Dead Space will be.
Oh, I can't wait for them to absolutely cock it. I can't wait for them.
Reboot. I guess that's an example of something that's a reboot because they're trying to bring a franchise back that was pretty much dead.
Franchise that they killed.
And
it is in the dead space.
My big suspicion is that reboot is going to change the thing in a way that I don't like. It'll probably be its own creative vision, and when I say creative vision, I mean it's going to be a hot mess of loot boxes and microtransactions and content-driven crap.
Well, I mean, they did it pretty well with the Star Wars game, so I'm hoping that they looked at the Star Wars game and was like, people will like actually buy this stuff?
Yeah, they're not going to do that.
That's a good example, actually. Star Wars Battlefront, the new one, is absolutely
a
reboot. But
I meant
the Dark Souls one, right?
Yeah, the Dark Souls one.
Star Wars
Jedi, whatever it was.
Yeah, Jedi Fallen Order. What was it called?
I mean,
it sold really well.
EA has the capabilities of respecting their old stuff. The Mass Effect.
They could not be pieces of shit, but they choose to be.
The Mass Effect trilogy was what, a remaster?
Yeah, it's a remaster, but. Yeah,
they didn't touch it too much. It was good. I really enjoyed playing through those games again. The bits that they took out were fine. And
I still need to go play that.
It's good.
I forgot about that game existing for a while. In all honesty,
the graphic enhancements are there, so that's a good example of a remaster. It doesn't really mess with the original vision in too substantial way, and they've just really kept those games as people remembered them. I would rather they do that with Dead Space. But I'm 99% sure that it's going to be a reboot that's going to aggravate me.
What really shocks me, right, is that they released the Tony Hawk Pro Skater, like HD remake, remaster. No, Activision did. But EA is sitting on SSX and has not done anything with SSX since 2011. And it just confuses me because, like, the extreme sport, like, vibe is coming back for some reason, and I love it, and I'm so here for it, but no one seems to give a shit about SSX, and that's kind of heartbreaking. So make that, remake that, please. Do that, but don't do like the 2011 version because it was bad. Make like SSX 3 again.
They're not going to do that, though.
They need to.
You just know
I'll do a big sob. Alternatively, just give Suda his money and let him make Shadows of the Damned again. but like actually to his vision, where
Yeah,
it's a tiny little fairy girl who screams at you.
Suda was not a fan of Shadows of the Damned. I get the
He was a
strong
fan of the original version. He was not a fan of the new one.
what?
The original one that he made, like his original pitch, he was like, "Yeah, this would have been cool."
Oh no, yeah, he had a great idea, but
yeah,
fucked
like,
it
get
up.
him to make that.
I mean,
I want him to make that.
in the interview that I had with him we talked about Shadows of the Damned once, and yeah, you get the strong impression that he was not amused by how that game turned out. So he was being very subtle about it by Suda standards, but yeah, it was pretty obvious. He was like, "Nah, I would rather this
Because
game."
he got
doesn't
extremely
exist."
fucked on that one. Like it.
Oh, EA absolutely did. EA absolutely screwed him. Like, he made it quite clear that EA was the reason that it turned out the way it did.
Well,
So
keep in mind he now owns Garcia Hotspur because Garcia Hotspur appeared in Travis Strikes Again. He
I
literally
don't.
appears.
Yeah, I don't know how the licensing works with all of his.
He
stuff.
owns Garcia.
But
So
May-
there is a chance one day that we'll see the tiny, weird pixie fairy version of Shadows of the Damned. And I hope so.
he's got to do
demand-
Lollipop Chainsaw first.
That'll happen. James Gunn's back in the fray, so maybe he'll get back onto it with him.
Make a. What would I want Lollipop Chainsaw to be? I think I would just be happy with a remaster.
Yeah, just-
of that.
I mean, that
Yeah.
game is stylistic enough that I don't think you need to do anything to it.
Yeah, just HD it up a bit. Update the character models, but leave the rest.
Give it a
of
better
as
frame
is.
rate. Just
Yeah,
frame
exactly.
rate. Literally just the frame rate. That's all I care about. Honestly, like at this point, if you release a game and it's a remake of something that came out like 10 years ago, if it's not running at 60, I don't like you. And I'm not going to even bother talking to you or playing your game, you know? It's why I liked playing Dark Souls Demon Souls so much, because the performance mode was just absolutely fantastic. And it improved the quality of the game so much. Like, just a simple thing like that. Even I'm playing Rogue Galaxy at the moment, the 2007 JRPG by Level 5. And if that game ran at 60, it would be so much better, just in terms of like game feel. It would just be so much better, and it would be such an easy little thing to just add on and just unlock the frame rate. I don't care. Do it. I want it. It's all I need.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they need to remake Rogue Galaxy. I think the game.
They do, because it's great.
They need to re-release it. They don't need to remake it.
Yeah. No, that's what I meant. Like, just unlock the frame rate. Literally, that's all that I want to do. Like, make it widescreen, unlock the frame rate. That's all.
So, what would be a game you would like to see fully remade, like properly remade?
Probably remade. Probably Psychonauts 1. Give that game like the time it deserves. Literally, like I think it would be remiss of me to not point out the fact that Psychonauts 1 technically is a bit of a disaster. A lot of that game really, really struggles under the fact that it is trying to do so much.
Would they
and
be
I
able
think
to,
that
would there be much they could do to remake it, not just remaster it? I'm talking
fix
about
the controls,
proper
fix the gameplay.
remake.
Because it's the only reason that you like that game is you like the story and you like the aesthetic, because it's a weird Tim Burton movie game, and that's great. But the actual act of playing it, like I tried to play it recently, and it was rough to like look at in terms of like actually running at a consistent frame rate. And I was playing it on PC as well, and it's just like, it's not good. So yeah,
But wouldn't a frame rate thing just be a remaster? That's a remaster.
No, but like
issue.
then fixing the gameplay as well, like fixing the fact that powers are not that useful, fixing the fact that a lot of the jumps are very, very busted, and that the fact that the final level is one of the worst things ever made by a human being.
It's like how all platformers are hot trash. Like, they should just remaster any platformer which gets released. Like,
I wouldn't mind like a Jack and Daxter 1 remake or remaster, because like that game holds up in a lot of ways, but it's also very outdated, and it stinks of 2001. Like it's just aggressively 2001.
What about you, Trent? What would you like to see remade?
Remade any game, I'll always buy it. I mean, what? Let's say, probably maybe if Konami was nice, like they revisited the Lost in Blue series and they remade like Survival Kids and the sequel Survival Kids 2, but like released it like in like an upscale sort of way, like the Link's Awakening like remake, like something which is like aesthetically similar to what it was, but still completely different, and brings that sort of nostalgic back, but still making it complete like an awesome game. And then they can release the second series game in like English by doing that, and everyone can experience the awesomeness of like crazy helicopter people and actually know what's happening.
Yeah, I mean that would be interesting. They'd
I guess
probably
it's the same heart, different art sort of attitude,
my concern, I guess, would be if they were going to remake Survival Kids, they'd go and turn it into a survival game, like I don't know,
Build the blocks.
like Rust or whatever, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, if it definitely got a new game in like the series at this point, it would be like a reboot again, like how Lost in Blue was a reboot, and it would be on the Minecraft Rust sort of style frame of thinking, and it would
I would imagine that would be how they would actually remake that game. That's sort of to bring it in line with modern stance or whatever. That's what they'd probably do, I would think. For me, I reckon I'd like to see. I reckon Persona 4 would be a game that would be right for a remake, a full remake, I think, because I can see that there's a lot of areas where they could take the base Persona 4 that people love and completely reinvigorate the game by modernizing everything in a really significant way. Like the character designs, for example, you play Persona 4 now and they're all a little bit, they're primitive. The character models and stuff are primitive, and that's a character-driven game. So you could definitely use the power of modern consoles and computers to give people a new look at Inabar and everybody's favorite characters and stuff. And then they would also use it as an opportunity to fix the dungeon crawling stuff, which was a little bit primitive back then. But as Persona 5 has since proven, they are able to create much more interesting combat systems when they want to. So they could probably do that as well. I think Persona 4 would probably be the one that deserves a full remake treatment more than anything else.
I'd even go so far as to say Persona 3 needs it more.
Persona 3 could probably use it as well, but I'm just a fanboy of Persona 4. So
yeah.
That's
to be honest with you, though,
think,
I would love to see a Persona 1 remake, actually, because I just don't have any interest in playing that game because it looks so old.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. If they were to do Persona 1 and remake it so it looks and feels like Persona 5 or whatever, that would be something pretty special.
Because there's lots of people which came to the series. Like I came to the series with the Vita, like port 4, and there's so many people which came with 5. So no one's, I haven't gone back to play the older games because I just hear bad things about them in terms of if you liked 4 and liked all these enhancements in the newer ones, you're probably gonna not like the originals. So
well, I mean, Persona 3. People who like Persona 4 will like Persona 3. They're fundamentally the same thing.
Oh, they're very unkind, though. P3 is extremely unkind as a game. It's very hostile to you. It's the most Shin Megami Tensei of all the Personas, in my opinion, that I've played so far.
You haven't played Persona 1 and 2. I was getting to those.
I've played Innocent Sin, and that was a rough time.
Persona 1 and 2 are Shin Megami Tensei first and foremost, and then Persona secondary. They were very much spin-offs of Shin Megami Tensei rather than their own thing. With Persona 3, the series took its own identity and it became a very different experience. It is certainly a lot harder and harsher than Persona 4, but they are very stylistically similar games, and the structure of them is very similar as well. Persona 1 and 2 are just different beasts entirely. They're much more like, if you played the Shin Megami Tensei 3 Remaster, which was released on Switch recently, if you've played that, then that is closer to what Persona 1 and 2 are like. So, yeah, taking Persona 1 and 2 and turning them into, taking the kind of the basis of them and turning them into games that are more like Persona 3, 4, and 5 would be a really worthwhile project. And that would certainly count as a remake rather than a remaster, I would think.
Yeah, it'd be good to see.
And on that note, we might give this podcast a wrap. What do you reckon? We've had a good chat about remasters and remakes and re-themes, re-imaging. Releases.
Returning.
Response. Response.
Yeah.
That's my word. You can't
Yeah.
use it. Don't forget that. I invented it. I've copyrighted it. If you use it, I'm going to sue your butts off.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Anyway, thanks for being on the podcast, Alan. As always, it's good to have you here. Thanks for being on the podcast, Trent. We did lose Harvard off the podcast in the last bit. He had to disappear, so that's why you haven't heard from him for a while. But thanks for being on the podcast, Harvard. That was a really good chat. Let us know your own thoughts in the comments on wherever you've listened to this, people. Thanks for tuning in and listening to us. We will be back next month to talk about more stuff. In the meantime, we're going to go to...
Just do Persona music.
I was going to say, let's do some The World Ends With You music.
All right.
Because that's what Trent would choose anyway. Am I right, Trent?
Oh, yeah, it's fitting the theme, it's in the mood. Though, I was playing the new Phoenix Wright, and I was like, what if there was, like, a musical Phoenix Wright, but there was, like, a game, but it was a musical. So it was, like, over-animated and, like, all crazy, and it was a musical. But anyway, yeah.
Right. On that note, we are going to go to some...
So what is with you?
No, if you can find some music from Neo, Alan, in editing this, then let's go with that. Otherwise, just some
I will do
music
what I can.
from Vanilla, The World Ends With You. Thanks everybody for being on, and we will see you next month.
Systematic world, killing me. Getting numb really fulfills me. Takes me higher, someplace I've never been. I'm about to wake up, let it begin. Watch it burn, like a fire burn. I'm coming back until the world is yours. The world be mine. One step closer to the edge. I'm about to wreck, so I'm ready. If you're let's play, the game is on, so bring it on. You don't know me, so I'll show you. Now you know me, I'll pull through. I'm ready to take you. I'm right in front of you, right in front. Oh, I'm about to lose it. I'm telling you that won't back down. I'll prove it. No other place than now, so I'm ready and moving. So let me show you my strength. I'm improving. I know you want me, yeah, but I'm strong, and that's what you gonna do now. Get your guns and ammo, grenades and auto, prepare for a fight and bout. With my sword and my shield, I'm ready to reveal. Ready World is yours. World is yours. World is